Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Mun Larimer. I'm running for President of the United States. Just a side note, as of right now, all you have to do is Google my name and my videos, and information about me will pop up, no problem. Today we're going to discuss the justice system. I didn't think I was going to have to reshoot this, but apparently I need to, because I messed with the camera a little bit last time and it got really loud, so I had to scrap that video. Anyway, our justice system needs to be revamped. We have a multitude of people in prison for offenses that don't warrant the length of time that they're in prison for. I'm not saying they don't deserve to be in prison for some of the things that they have done. All I'm saying is we need to make sure that when we sentence people, that it actually makes sense. You know, people who have hacked other people's computers or business computers or whatnot, some of them are in prison for longer than other people who have committed murder. That's not acceptable. We have people in prison who are there under pure circumstantial evidence. I'm not saying that some circumstantial evidence is not credible, but we hold 21% of the world's criminals in our prison system. To the amount of how much circumstantial evidence is used in the past, I'm not saying it's necessarily a big deal today. But then again, I don't know, because I don't work in that field. Circumstantial evidence is not solid evidence, and it should not convict, nor should it incarcerate someone for an extended period of time. We need to clarify that the justice system is supposed to just be that, a justice system, where any American who is violated in any capacity can bring the violator into a court of law and receive justice. If you disagree with how that system is set up today, all you have to do is walk into a courtroom and listen to a judge get upset, because they will remind everyone in that courtroom that that courtroom belongs to that judge. And you hear it in little comments such as, "You will not do that in my courtroom. In my courtroom, you will talk to me in such a way." Every judge across this nation needs to understand that those courtrooms belong to us, the people. The government belongs to the people. The judge works for the people. And those people that are in the courtroom are a part of that. So we need to step aside and remind the judges, no matter how difficult that may be, that they are not supreme. And we need to have a system put in place where all judgments can be reviewed. I know they call that the appeals court. I get that. But you often hear about how people get their appeals turned down. Anyone who's convicted who seeks an appeal, it should be mandatory that they have at least one appeal that must be heard. I mean, if you're going to prison for life, if you're going to prison to be executed, you're going to prison for 8 years. you have that right to be heard one more time. Because it could be very easy that somebody overlooked something or a judgment was miscalled. If you're prosecuting someone, the appeals should be the way they are now. You don't necessarily are warranted a guaranteed one-time appeal. Trials should not be taking years. The laws need to be set up to where lawyers cannot get people to walk when they are clearly guilty of any infraction. Everyone should have to pay the same price for the same crime. The severity of the crime definitely would determine the actual sentencing. But there would be a sentencing that would be within reason of those particular crimes. All of this sounds reasonable. All of this seems as if it's what our American system is. It is not. If you have the money, you'll never be convicted. And even if you are convicted, you'll never go to jail. Ever. If you have the money. If you don't have the money, even if you're innocent, you'll be convicted and you will go to prison. If someone believes or just wants you to be guilty. It sounds absurd, but all you have to do is go to Netflix or maybe even Hulu, and they have plenty of specials on people who were almost convicted or wrongfully convicted. You know, so it's not an entertainment purpose. It's life and death for some people. And that needs to change. We spend $50,000 to $70,000 per inmate per year. That was a number from 2010. So at this point, that was 8 years ago. Per inmate. We have 2.2 million people in prison. We contain 5% of the world's population, yet we hold 21% of the world's criminals. All those numbers sound bad. Except for the world population. At $50,000 per incarcerated citizen, which includes housing, security, and healthcare, it comes out to just over $10 billion a year. It's not even a matter of questioning or putting in check judges who give radical judgments. It's about saving money too. And knowing that we have private citizens, so wealthy individuals also capitalize on criminals. So why wouldn't they push for harsher sentencing? You know, they will capitalize on it. And we've learned throughout history that if people can make money, it doesn't matter what happens to other people, they will do whatever it takes to earn that money. I want to do away with private citizens, or private prisons. I do not want to do away with private citizens. Private prisons, do away with that. You know, there should be no company or no individual who needs to make money off of incarcerated citizens. We need to revamp the sentencing on every offense. If you're a computer hacker, you should be in prison less time than somebody who has raped a child. That's not always the case. And that baffles me. I couldn't tell you how confused I was when I heard that some people in prison who are there because they've hacked other people's computers and businesses. I mean, what they did was wrong, and it was pretty extensive, and I think some of them even worked for Anonymous, a computer organization that comprised of nothing but hackers, are in prison for longer than other people who have committed murder and who have raped children. I'm sorry, but those two offenses, those individuals should be in prison longer. Absolutely. Absolutely. But they're not. And I don't mean to necessarily be racist about it, but if you're comfortable in your own skin and you think everything is great and wonderful and you're white, maybe you should make people or make friends outside of your own race and begin to discuss things with them and see things through their eyes. And you'll begin to see and realize that our justice system is very racial. It discriminates harshly against other races that are not white. And even if it's brought up, there will be a backlash against white people, and they'll go softer on other races, even if it's just for a short time. Which is still racial. We need a justice system that doesn't care what color of skin a person has, or what their gender is, or how much money they have, or their education. We need a justice system that will look people in the eye and say, no, that was wrong, and this is the penalty for that wrongdoing. We need to have concrete evidence, and the last thing anyone needs to really hear from a prosecutor, a lawyer, or even the state on the people's behalf. It's not in their best interest, or it's financially not viable to pursue this crime in a court of law. If you get paid by the state to be a prosecutor, and offenses happen against the people, even if it's just one person, then it's always worth taking to court. It does not matter what it means to you or your career. You know, you want a perfect win record. Everybody wants that. But you didn't get into that field for a awesome win record. You got into the field of prosecution to convict criminals, to convict people who are doing wrong. If somebody T-bones another person and then flees the scene, but they get their make and model number of the vehicle and describe who was driving, and the police officers find who did that, they're there, and they even have a breakdown and confess they did it, but detectives and prosecutors want nothing to do with it because it's not worth their time or the people's money. But what about the individual who got T-boned? The insurance is not going to give them full value for that vehicle unless they're making payments on it. And even then, they can't just run out and get another vehicle. Their lives have momentarily or permanently been changed. Because even if you own the vehicle, the insurance is not going to give you what that, or the money that car is worth. This is all petty, but at the same time, that's what the justice system is for, to correct wrongdoing. And instead, it's more worried about its own image. It's worried about its win record. If you disagree about the image, all you have to do is go into any courtroom and see how nice and polished it is. Rustic even. And pay attention to the ceremonies about rising and sitting and who can speak and at what time. And some of it I understand, especially speaking. You can only listen to one person at a time. I get that. But if you represent yourself in a matter and that's foolish, then our system is sad. You should be able to represent yourself. You should be able to stand your own ground in America and defend yourself, even in a courtroom. The system should not be so complex that an average individual cannot stand their own ground in a courtroom. I don't have all the answers to rectify the justice system, the legislative branch. I'm not running for any position in the legislative. I said legislative. No, judicial branch. Sorry, my apologies. It is a firm belief for me, and it should be a fundamental for all Americans, especially those in an elected representative position, to revamp one branch of the government. The other two branches need to work together. The justice system, the judicial branch, it does need to be revamped, and it does need to be revamped through the cooperation of the executive and legislative branches. The corruption is so rampant inside the justice system. There really, at this point, is no other recourse. Electing new judges isn't going to change much of anything. We need to revamp the laws, the sentencing. We need to be able to hold our judges accountable. And I mean, that's basically it. There is one thing that we need to do, and I will do when I'm elected as President of the United States. It's going to be tedious, it's going to be painful, and I am not looking forward to it. I will review every federal case for every convicted felon to ensure that those convicted felons are indeed that. That the evidence is actual evidence and not circumstantial. That we have the right person in prison. And that the sentencing makes sense. I'm passionate about this because there's a case in California. Hasn't been recent, but where a wealthy individual, a wealthy boy, probably in his 20s, decided that he was going to rape somebody out by a dumpster. I believe it was out by a gym somewhere. And the judge decided that even though he was guilty, and he was, that he was just going to give him probation. And the purpose of this is because he said that the individual was born into a wealthy family and that going to prison would psychologically break him. Apparently, the judge did not take into consideration the violent act of rape, where it both physically and mentally violates the person being raped. In this case, it was a woman. The psychological toll that that takes is greater than the physical toll. Most, if not all, therapists would agree to that. Most, if not all, women would agree to that. It shouldn't matter if you were born in a wealthy family or not. You committed rape, you go to prison. And not as a misdemeanor, it should be a felony if it's not already. And I'm going to push for that. Because I know of someone personally who their children's father was caught selling crack. He did it. He was convicted for 11 years. It was his first offense. Now, I'm not saying that that individual shouldn't go to prison. I am saying he shouldn't be in prison for 11 years. Good Lord. His kids will be old enough to be awkward around him because he wasn't there when they were growing up. Yeah, he's the one who made the offense. Yeah, he's the one who chose that. He should be convicted. He should go to prison. It should hurt emotionally. Should help wake him up. But if we have a rich boy out in California who's not going to go to jail or prison for any length of time after he sexually violated a woman, why is somebody spending 11 years for their first offense in prison, away from his children? It's things like this that needs to change. We need to be intellectually more sound. Even with our traffic violations. Almost every state, if not every state, has a state law. It's usually a secondary offense, but it's still an offense if you're not wearing your seatbelt. Well, I understand the purpose of the seatbelt. I'm not arguing one way or the other. I'm not trying to make an issue out of it. I'm just bringing up the logic behind our laws and our thought process. If you don't wear a seatbelt, you're going to get a fine. Okay, that's fair. But you're encased in metal, fiberglass. You're encased in protection. A motorcyclist is only required to wear a helmet. They are not encased in anything. They're completely exposed to all elements. The safety requirements for a motorcycle should be far more than that of a motorist inside of every other vehicle. For safety reasons, I believe is what they cite. So for safety reasons, either the motorcyclist should have a plethora of security measures to keep them safe, maybe their clothing, or maybe we should just do away with motorcycles completely. Or maybe we should just leave the entire subject alone, and unless they're children, allow adults to make up their own mind if they want to wear a seatbelt or not. If they want to be stupid and crash into a pole and kill themselves, That's their choice. They weren't wearing a seatbelt. Should not be a criminal offense to a point where you receive a ticket. We just need to be consistent and fluent with all of our decisions throughout America, and not just one little subject at a time and have tunnel vision. We can't have tunnel vision when we're talking about setting laws to govern the people, because then we do things stupidly. Either we need to get rid of motorcycles, or we need to get rid of the law that says you have to wear a seatbelt. And like I said, for children, I understand. I mean, we need to make sure that children are protected. I get that. Other people may not understand it, but well, I'll be happy to sit down and discuss with those people why children should wear a seatbelt and adults don't need to. But that's petty. But at the same time, it's very real. So, yeah, our justice system needs to be revamped. And I, for one, am willing to sit down with Congress and work with Congress to go through the tedious effort of revamping the whole judicial branch. And another thing, for all those people who have family or friends, or even reporters who know of people who've done reports on individuals who they know are not guilty, I'm going to comb through those files. And people I believe who are there wrongfully will be pardoned, and I will see to it I didn't even know this part, but after they're pardoned, that they do not remain in prison for more than 14 days after their pardon. Apparently, it's not uncommon for people to remain in prison for months and sometimes even years after they receive a pardon. It's unacceptable. I don't care what protocols need to be met. Someone receives a pardon, or they have served their time, that's exactly what it means. They've received a pardon and they've served their time. They're released. They're free. Everything else, holding them there would be illegal. I'm allowing a 14-day grace period because, quite frankly, I don't know anything about that system. And 14 days seems excessive to me, but it may be rushing for other people. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Mun Larimer. I'm running for President of the United States. And this is my views on our justice system. Thank you.